So, PAX East came and went, and the Outer Worlds showcased a demo there. And by most viewers who gave their voted opinion on YouTube, it was received poorly. Now, I don't exactly know why, I rather liked the video, but I'm guessing this has more to do with it being a demo and thus unfinished, and hopefully less to do with everyone hating on Epic Games as usual. So let's take a few things and see what caught my eye for people liking and possibly disliking the thing. The first thing noticeable about the demo was the look and feel. It looked like Fallout meets Bioshock in space. It almost has a We Happy Few vibe. It's kind of interesting, though I can't quite put my finger on it because it wasn't finished. And this was a specific level of the game, which was very colorful. It had a great colorful palette and lots of bright lights. And you take one of the scenes, for example, from Fallout 2, where you have the option to become a porn star, but imagine watering it down and throwing it into some cheesy sci-fi pulp scene, and then you have one actor trying to be as bombastic and overacting as possible, trying to steal the limelight. And of course, there's live ammunition. It's basically Fallout in space, which is a great feeling. And then there's some effects in combat that look pretty good. There was nothing overly spectacular, but there was all kinds of great looking particle physics from the guns and okay looking time dilation. One thing that was negative was a pop-in of an NPC, and that's weird because they're using Unreal. So I'm kind of curious why they did that and why they just turned that setting off. They should have balanced that off by now. There are some things about the quality I didn't quite get. People were talking in the comments how the video was not a high resolution. Now, if anything about my channel, I try to be as low as possible on resolution. But this is all dependent on the rig it was playing on and how it was captured. So whether it's 720 or 1080, people are probably used to a higher standard, and that's understandable. And as well, people were saying there's screen tearing, though I didn't quite see it. Next quality about this demo was the comedy. I mean, this is basically Tim Kane's game. He's not with his full Fallout crew or his Troika crew or whomever, but it's clearly inspired by him and his quirky sense of humor. I don't think we've ever really seen a developer have that much control over the kind of game he wants to build as a contributor to the content, which means you can play the game as an idiot, and that's totally fine. There are dialogue options for that. There was the Titus Androidicus poster I thought was hilarious. That's just silly. I mean, if you're a Shakespeare guy or a Burbage guy, I mean, it's like, okay, inside jokes, here we go. And then there's your sidekick just pulling off their ridiculous special moves. It has a Saints Row kind of vibe now, as soon as you saw that. Imagine just walking into a bar and just drop kicking someone, or going up against a heavily armed series of guards and starting it off with a drop kick, or just drop kicking anyone in general. I mean, that's just funny. The waiter at the bar looked absolutely ridiculous, completely unsafe. And of course, these games are all about dialogue and choices, and those elements were entertaining in the small amount we saw. Now, I guess you could say one thing that was negative is the demonstration. The person playing just went around and just started killing everyone. That's probably pretty much the last thing you want to do in Fallout. But not the best example of showcasing comedy just by going around killing everyone. And the third major thing I noticed was the RPG elements or qualities therein. The theme of, let's say, everything being corporate, the constant product placement, the fact you can buy these products. That's a very curious idea to have in this sort of environment, and I'm very curious to see how that plays out. There's the interesting builds you can have. So if you want to go a pure science build, there are weapons of every type that work with just the science stat. So that's interesting. You can see the effects of one of the weapons that you're using, which had corrosive damage to a body, which is cool. And one of the weapons, which started off as a bug, they ended up making into a real weapon where you can randomly change the size of the opponent's heads, and in the process you're freezing them. That's just bizarre. So we then saw a random perk that happened at the end. I don't know how this came about. And it was a negative perk, which is kind of like the opposite of repeatedly using skills in Skyrim. Well, if you keep doing bad things like falling from a great height or doing certain other behaviors, you're going to get a phobia or a character trait like that, in this case called cynophobia. Now, this could have been a bad thing in general because not much of the RPG elements were revealed. I think someone Didn't like the fact that damage points were popping off some people, but I'm assuming you can take that off in the settings menu somewhere. But mostly just the lack of RPG mechanics, or nothing really exciting or new from this game that we were expecting to see. Nothing really sort of stood out. And the main one that most people noticed was the lack of voice acting. Now, this was a demo. You don't expect everything to be finished, and voice acting should be done after everything else anyway, so that's not really a technical problem. They're still building the game, they're adding timing and all this to the content. That's purely cosmetic anyway, so again, not a big deal, but still, for impact, you still want to hear the actors do their lines. It has a huge impact on the experience, and I can see why people would have given a negative reaction to that. But even with all those faults, I rather liked the video, and I'm kind of curious why people hated it. So if anyone has any other ideas or points I missed, please do tell me in the comments below. Thanks.